try to be like cool and freestyle everything. That doesn't work. Like use proven scripts and deliver them naturally. Reading it to yourself, and the other thing is actually saying it loud, how it comes across your lips. Why are we here? What's the problem? You position it, current situation, desired situation, in that time frame is just that. You explain why everything they tried in the past has failed, and this explains why this time will be different. No, never present them. You're giving all the power away. Because now we're going to talk about key sales skill sets that you have to learn. This is things you have to practice. Check out the modules also on this where we dive in. And then afterwards we're going to look at the sales process and the strategy call process and answer your specific questions where you're stuck right now. Okay, so I hope you have questions ready. And then afterwards we move more into the lead gen and DM setting side of things before we finish up in the evening. Okay, so let's dive right into it. Number one skill is active listening. So to do it, to make sure you fully understand what they said, you usually want to paraphrase or repeat what they said just to make sure. You don't do that for every single thing, but for the main points, especially if they go on about the business and this, and they don't seem to be sure what the problem is, you can reflect what they just said so they can correct themselves if they're wrong. So how can you show off active listening? We just discussed this. It's basically usually repeating back things and making sure you fully understand. And also tonality, body language, Christoph, what you said is very important, especially on Zoom calls. You want to have facial expressions, and also if they tell you certain things, you want to also be like, like basic things that, when you look at an actor, you don't think that the actor is playing a role. In the moment, you're believing the guy, right? You're believing Leonardo DiCaprio, what he's doing. But this guy is doing the script, right? He learned this, and he's playing it in the moment. But it's still natural because of facial expressions, tonality. That goes directly to number two, tonality and expression. You have to practice this, and that's easier for people with yellow personality traits. They're better at tonality and moving, the words around. And if you're more like on the blue front, you have to practice this. For example, an important thing is the distinction between upward tonality and downward tonality. So for example, I can say, does it sound good? Does it sound good? I go up at the end. And I can say, for example, you wouldn't say, does that sound good? You don't do that. But you would say, for example, that's no problem at all. And you go down, right? And so the difference between those is sound good is like you're report seeking. You want them to confirm, yes, that's fine. And downward is more like statement. You don't seek anything from them, but you make a calming down statement. And so you want to use these different tonalities, upward and downward, to make different points with your tonality and body language as you go through certain things, okay? Very important to practice that. And that's why it's key that you have a script and a process that you follow, that you practice so often that it doesn't seem like it's a script anymore. Because many people are like, oh yeah, scripts are bad. No, the best sales trainers tell you use scripts. Why? Because you want to use it so often that it becomes so natural, so you see it, you don't have to read it anymore, you know exactly what the next sentence will be because you have it memorized. And then you express it in a natural way, okay? That's super important. Then number three, focus. How is focus important in sales? Follow the structure of everything, make sure you cover the 9 beliefs, 100%, super good. But there's also another way you could look at focus. You want to make sure you are focused, closing, of course, all distractions on your computer, good environment, and also hold the prospect accountable directly. Sometimes you know this, that I hate this when you're on a call with someone and then suddenly, bing, and you hear all this stuff going on in the background and they're distracted and you're like, man, what are you doing here? What's going on? So that's again, best interest advisor, because you want to have this conversation, say like, hey, I noticed there's something going on. Are you here with me? Because we want to protect our time. Let's make sure, let's close everything. I'll also close my emails, close my Slack, so we have full focus. Does that sound good? Because if you see people looking around and they're getting distracted and their phone call here, that's very bad. You can't really go into everything. Okay, super important. Focus. Then ability to transfer emotions, so clarity and certainty, exactly, because they want to feel they have clarity what the real problem is. And then also certainty that what they've tried is not going to work, but this is going to be different. If you transfer those, you have most of the sale already done. Okay. How do you transfer that? How do you transfer these emotions? What do you think? So like the expert tonality, like downward deflecting, 100%. That's super important. Tonality is very important. Then, of course, in the pitch phase, the case studies and all of these things, of course, as well. The fifth one, this is an important one, ability to let things go, which means also that sales is a game where you will be faced with rejection. Sometimes people are even rude to you, right? And also sometimes you're doubting yourself, your own abilities. And this is where you need to be able to also learn to let things go, right? Like, ask yourself, have I followed the process correctly? Have I done everything to the best of my abilities? If yes, great. And then ask yourself, what can I learn from this? What can I improve? And I know it's not always easy. It's easy to get caught up in emotions and like, oh, damn, we're so close. And, because you feel like money and your business is connected to it. But you need to learn this. You need to learn that also through sales abundance, that you not just have like one call per month. And you're like, I need this call. But that you have also more potentials coming in. So you can let it go if something doesn't work and don't need to accept also everyone. Then now let's dive into the sales process overview. This is now what we're going to look into, quick overview, and then we're going to go into your questions and challenges on this, okay? Now, basically we have two phases. Let's start here at the bottom. We have the phase pre-pitch and we have the pitch phase. I like to cover this whole process into these phases because the pre-pitch phase, as you can see, is the biggest phase. It covers like the strategy calls, any discovery calls, and when the person is coming in. And then the pitch phase, where you talk about what you do and how it will help, is only a small section at the end of your sales process. That's very important to understand first. Now let's go through it together. We have, of course, that anyone becomes a lead. A lead is someone that's interested in your product and wants to learn more in any shape or form about what you do. Okay. Now, how do they come? Either outbound or inbound. Outbound is you basically send them an email, you send them a LinkedIn, you send them anything and basically directly talk to them, or even you talk to them at a conference. Or inbound would be you have the website, they basically find you maybe through content or whatever, or a Google search, and they book in a call with you, right? Or they find you through your content on LinkedIn, anything like that. Or in the future also if you run ads, usually that's also considered more inbound. Then you have any form of qualification that you need to do before you jump on calls. Strategy calls are usually the calls we consider the calls you do to close or basically enroll someone into becoming a client with you. And then we have here, of course, the qualification stage. And that depends on how the lead enters. Usually what happens is that you either have a discovery or triage call first, or you at least do an application form where they leave some form of info about what they're doing. Okay, usually with outbound, what's going to happen is you have either yourself or a team call the leads to even move them forward. Meaning, for example, you send a LinkedIn or a cold email and they say, yes, I want to have more info. You did outbound, but then they raise their hand and identify themselves as a lead. And then your job is to follow up, call them, to do a triage call, qualify, and then from there move them into the strategy calls. Usually with inbound, it's like this. Obviously, when they find you on your website and they want to book in a call with you, they are usually have done some form of research about you, know you a little bit, have followed you for some time, and then they're warmer. And then usually they are a bit more qualified, but you just want to make sure the numbers are right. So you ask a little bit qualification about revenue and goals to make sure they're not like complete beginner and you can't even help them. Okay. And so that way, if the application looks bad, that's why we have this arrow here, we have either you or someone from the team call them and said, hey, you applied for a call with us, had a few questions to see if we can help. Do you have a few minutes to see where your business is at? And you call them and qualify, all right? Ideally, you have an appointment setter or sales development rep do that for you so you don't have to do that yourself. And then from this, we move into the strategy calls. And in most cases, on the calls, you will have, in that phase, you will have two calls, especially in business to business. Especially, let's say someone comes through an application form. you will not be able to handle everything we just discussed, right? These 9 beliefs, ask all these questions, and make a pitch, and handle objections in one call. It's usually not possible. It's also not smart because the guy books in a call, and then you figure out the business partner is not on there, you need a second call anyway. Make sense? So most of the times it's like going to be 2 calls. What can happen is, let's say you're doing an outbound call and you already have a longer discovery and triage call, super qualified. Also make sure that on here, the business partner, everybody's here, they want a solution, they want it now, all of that. Then in some cases you can close them already on 1 call. But in most cases here, I recommend to have 2 strategy calls, so that you can also make a custom plan how you actually present the solution at the end. And then you have a bit more touch points here in between, okay? The next thing we'll do is, and then I'll open up also a bit for question, is we're gonna do an overview of the strategy calls itself, so that because you might be asking question, okay, how do the strategy call here, all of that. So what this is this here. So we're gonna go into exactly how to do the strategy call. Most of the beginning parts of these questions that you otherwise would do on the strategy call, and it's basically to save yourself time to have this call anyway. So usually on a triage call, you would define what is the problem, background questions around the business. In your case, if you're B2C, it would be more around their business, what's like the person, how it's affecting them and so on. And then, of course, this is like drilling into the problem, how long it's been going on, why outside help. And usually this is, it depends a little bit how much time you have. If you feel like, for example, the person in B2C, they might have more time, and you have a SDR doing the call, and you feel like you have good rapport, it's 15 minutes, they feel like they have more time, you might stretch the call to 30 minutes, and you might be able to cover all these questions, and then you pitch a second call, which is then a strategy call with the closer, where you recap all of these things quickly and then move into that part. But it depends how they came into it. So let's say they come in and they just book in a call directly with you through an application and you didn't have the chance to do a triage call, then the closer would be doing all this phase here on the first strategy call, and then most of the time you don't have enough time to do a second call. For you, to be honest, in B2C, it is actually more common to have a 1 call close, because you don't need to say, I need to go back to the team and come up with a custom plan. Exactly. So for you, most of the time, you don't need to go so much into what's the implication on the business? It's not so complex, right? That's why you can do usually a 1 call close. And that's why I say if qualified and enough time, continue with pitch phase here. So you would move through all of that in 1 call. So I would not be just putting up with the fact that someone doesn't have goals. I would assume this is they either have a lack of goal setting ability or they never thought about it, and I would just literally take 2 minutes and coach them through what their goals are. And then okay, cool, so basically let's role play this. What do they say when they say they don't know what their goals are? Okay, so basically what you want to do there is you first of all want to be clear, do they know what the problem is, or do they not know anything? Because there's a reason why they're on the call. So you want to start with something. Either they have a goal and don't know what to do to fix it, or they know what the problem is, but they don't know where to move. So in that case, does the person know what the problem is? You need to ask this. The first problem is your sales script. Let's go through it directly, so we directly identify what the thing is. So you start a quick opening. Hey, how's your day been so far? Great, cool, what you're up to? Yeah, just doing this, great. Yeah, just had a few calls now, excited to talk to you. Well, I guess we have limited amount of time, ready to dive right in. Yeah, cool, let's do it. Cool, done. Opening done. Set frame and agenda. Then you're going to go into basically, hey, the way usually these calls run best, what I said. Sounds fair for you? Yeah, perfect, cool. So best interest advisor, nice. Then define problem. So as you can see, we go through this. And then we're going to continue here. And then define problem. So I guess the best place to start is, what's the biggest challenge right now in the business, or at least what you feel like is not working the way it could in your business right now, right? And so then they're gonna start talking about stuff. And then you're gonna ask questions. So what exactly do you mean when you say that? You wanna say, okay, so the biggest problem is this. You want to start off, why are we here? What's the problem? Why are you on this call? So you want to assume that there's a problem. And then from there, if they don't really know what the problem is, or it's difficult to go a bit deeper, then you say, hey, cool, let's go back to this in a second. Let me first of all get a little bit of context about your business so you understand anything. Make sense? Yeah, cool. And then basically you have background questions that you need to qualify where the business is at. And so usually for us, it's, for example, right now, what exactly do you provide? What service? How big is the team? You start from less invasive to more invasive. And then you talk about, okay, what's the revenue been at right now? All of that. What's the margin? All of that. And then you have all of this. And then once you have it, you confirm, okay, the revenue at is 40K right now. You set the margin 20%, right? And got it. What do you say? What's the revenue goal where you want to scale to in the next 6 months from the 40K? Well, I don't know. Then they say, I don't know. Okay, cool. What do you mean when you say you don't know? Like, if you had to pick and choose a number, what would the number be? And in your ideal scenario, where would you like your business to be? Most people will give you something. If they don't give you something, then you're going to say, okay, 6 months revenue goal aside, ultimately, for your business, what's the goal? Why are you doing this business? And there's usually people that are more yellow. They don't have revenue goals, they have impact goals. I want to impact people, I want to change the world, all of these things. And then from there, you basically say, great, so you want to impact people. How many people you want to impact in the next 5 years? I don't know. How about 1 million? Great, 1 million. So how many products would you need to sell in the next 5 years to impact 1 million people? I guess 1 million. Good. Do you know what I mean? So basically, you're just helping them defining numbers and breaking it down. And then you need to lead a little bit and say, okay, let's just say, then what I would do with you, I would be a leader, and I would say, I think what's possible for you, if they have no clue what is possible in your industry, you can easily scale to 100K, for example, per month in the next 6 months, right? How would that be an interesting goal for you, right? And if they don't care about scaling to 100K, then I would disqualify. Because if they don't really want to make more money, you have a hard time selling your service. Yeah, and then you start with ultimately here, that's desire. Because if they really don't give you stuff here, you start with that. And you ultimately ask, what's the goal for your business? And then they give you some stuff, then they say they have something. If I talk to people and they said stuff like, yeah, I actually don't want to grow, and some people were even too old, and they said I want to actually retire. I don't want to grow the business anymore. I want to retire. That's a disqualification reason for me, because if someone doesn't want to grow, I can't help them. And so what you want to understand is what is a motivator that shows they want to grow, even though they don't have a revenue number, and then you help them attach a revenue number, and if they don't want anything, then you disqualify them. That's it. So just be a bit more persistent with the asking and the coaching them through the goal number. Okay? The higher the ticket is, the more sales cycles you have. Look at this. If I sell a product on Amazon, I do 1 click. There's not even a call. 2K B2C, 1 call. There's not much decision makers and business partners and all of this. 1 call, bam. Maybe discovery call first, 1 call. Now, B2B solutions, multiple decision makers, customized plan, 2 calls. Now, once you go up to big corporate solutions, you have weeks of sales cycles or even more with different departments need to approve budget. Then it gets really complicated, right? So the higher the ticket, actually, the more sales calls you have, because you need to convince more people and need more touch points. And so your point is still valid, though, because obviously the question is, how much have they known about you beforehand? And so sometimes when you, for example, have someone coming in inbound, sometimes you have people, they are shopping, meaning they know now they will make a decision very soon. They're talking to 3 agencies, and they will make a decision in this week or so. And then you're right, then you might be able to cut down the process maybe by 1 call at the end, because they want to make a decision rather faster. And so what you do in that case is then you basically identify that by solution awareness questions. Have they reached out to anyone else to get help with this? They will do that. Where you guys are at in the decision-making process with this? How soon are you wanting to make a decision on this? And once they tell you, then you position yourself at the end of their decision process. You're more likely to get the deal, actually. Okay? But to be honest, the only reason when I would otherwise cut it down is if, for example, they followed you, your LinkedIn for months, and they know you, they trust you and all of this, and they really feel like they want to make a decision with you, they look super warm, they know you, they come from a referral, then you might be able to not need 2 calls and cut it down. Okay, but I would still be careful because you can burn also very warm leads if you then tend to rush it. You don't have the decision makers, you pitch too early, you don't do your due diligence. So if in doubt, I would always make sure to cover every point here, because it might be that one of those missing them is going to cost you the sale. Like, for example, everything looks great, but for example, you sound exactly like a previous agency and you didn't talk about this, that they had one like this. And then they say, we're not going to do it. These are the 9 beliefs here, or not everything is a belief, but it covers most of the 9 beliefs here that we discussed before. The problem, then this is financial ability you cover in here, the pain, the consequence, solution awareness, why now, desire, most of that is in here, some of the trust and certainties then in the pillars. And the goal is that you cover all of this, and then most of the times here you have a transition where you basically then line up a second call here. And then on that second call at the start, you confirm the main points that you covered here. And then you move into the pitch. And maybe a few words on the pitch, because the pitch is usually high-level outcome. And this would be, for example, hey, so you do this usually with like the pen and paper approach. And you basically have them take notes while you present something, and you say, all right, so basically what we do is we help e-com brands scale profitably without being stuck in creative testing. With that being said, everything we do is custom to each client. For you, it's going to be specifically 3 steps to get you from 40K per month to 100K per month in the next 6 months, so that you can get out of the creative testing, have more time for your wife and family, and ultimately make a true impact with your brand. Sounds fair? Cool, right? Do you see you summarized now the current and desired situation in this, and then you move into the pillars. And the pillars, we have a training how you craft properly your pillars to present exactly how the process and the solution is going to look like. And what you do here in a nutshell is you want to use what they told you before. So, hey, remember, Kyle, how you told me on the call that you were actually struggling to, delegate properly to your team and hire the right team members. And I feel you said it makes you a little bit stuck and frustrated in the operations. Is that about right? And you say, yeah, it's right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, cool. And then you say, yeah, we see this a lot with a lot of agency owners nowadays. They don't really have an A-player team or efficient processes in place. Here's the problem with that. Here's the consequences. So ultimately, they stay stuck. They can't really scale because they spend too much time. So to solve that, what we do is we implement our efficient processes operating system, where we come in and then we fix this. We get you this outcome. For example, we cut down the time in the operations in half. We implement our processes for you so that you can cut the time in half, spend more time on sales, and at the end of the day, free up the hours you spend in operations and scale 3 times faster, right? So at the end of the day, attaching numbers to it and high-level outcome and explain what you do. This is what the pillars are. So you want to think about what are the 3 major steps, most of the time it's around 3, that a client would need to get them from 40K to 100K. And you don't say stuff like, oh, onboarding, and then we do some creative testing. No, you call it hard-hitting outcome-based. Okay? So for example, one would be you optimize, for example, their unit economics so it's ready for scale. Number 2, we implement our creative testing process so that you get out of that and so on. Right? So it's basically outcome-based. Again, it's difficult to explain all of this in a short sentence, but we have a whole training on this. The mindset behind this, it should sound like the at the same time, you explain why everything they tried in the past has failed. Remember how I said, yeah, we see this with most agency owners that do this mistake, and that's why this happens. And so now we come in, that's why what we do is, and this explains why this time will be different. And this is especially important for very competitive things. Why, for example, their meta ads with another agency failed. Why this didn't work out. This is where you do the belief shifting. Why what they tried in the past with the other agency didn't work and why this time will be different. Okay, and this is powerful. And then after each pillar, you check in with them. Does that make sense for you so far? Makes sense. Cool. What questions do you have on this? Not do you have any, but what questions do you have on this? Okay, and then they're going to say, they look at it, look at their notes, and then you have a dialogue. Okay, you do that with all pillars, and then after the pillars, you quickly discover high level your delivery. And this is usually where you discuss points that they said here before have been an issue with other agencies for them. So for example, yeah, we didn't get updates, we didn't get reporting, the communication wasn't good, right? All of these things. And I said, hey, remember how you said this? What we do at our agency, weekly reporting, senior media buyers, bam, bam, bam. So you cover the main points, but you keep it around 1 to 2 minutes, high level. And then this is, at this stage, we haven't dropped the price yet, okay? And of course, if you lead this properly, they might sometimes ask here, yeah, but what's actually the price? What does it cost? You know, and of course, what you usually say is like, sure, no problem. We'll cover this in a second. Don't worry, we'll go over everything. What's important for me first is, first of all, that you're bought in and aligned with the process. Did you feel like this is exactly what you're looking for to help you get from 40 to 100K, right? Because that makes sense, right? Why would you pitch anything if you don't even know if they feel like that's what they need? So that's like the mindset behind it. And that's why at that stage, usually when you talk about these points, the question's going to come up, yeah, but how much does it cost? You know, so that's what they ask. But that's why you do the temp check, where you, like I just said, hey, yeah, sure, no worries, we're going to cover this just in a second. Just on a scale of 1 to 10, how, like, the question is, like, how much on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being like, you know, this is exactly not what I'm looking for, and 10 is this is exactly what I need. Where do you fall at right now? And so basically, if someone sells you already, oh, that's amazing, I need this, without you asking this, then you don't even have to do it. When they feel like, wow, that's exactly what I need, like certain tonality. But if they're like, yeah, sounds good, right? Then you like want a temperature check, like where they are at. So they might give you a 7 or an 8, and then you want to like figure out, okay, what's missing to be a 9 or 10? Because the big mistake is if you drop here directly pricing, at the end of the day, it's difficult to then separate what is the problem now. Is it the price, or is it that they're not bought in on the process, on the service? Okay. So ideally, what you want to do here, you want to temp check. They at least give you a 9 or 10 out of 10. Some people are fine with an 8 out of 10 as well. Right, so some people are fine. Then they might tell you, yeah, with an 8 out of 10, that's good for me. You know, I can make a decision. But you want to ask, hey, how would a 9 or 10 out of 10 look like for you? To make sure they sound certain, they sound like that's what they need. And then once you've done this, then you just future pace next steps. This is basically where you tell them what's going to happen after the investment, and then you drop the investment. So it's basically say, like, yeah, look, we're going to work together for the next 6 months, and basically, first of all, you're going to process the investment with me, we're going to get the agreement done, and then we're going to directly get our kickoff call ready so we can directly line up a few quick wins to get you out of the creative testing process so we can directly move forward, right? And then you're going to say, and the investment just for the 6 months to get you to 100K per month, which is going to be 1.2 million per year, is just going to be 18K. Right, so you position it, current situation, desired situation, in that time frame is just that. And then you drop the investment here. And then from there, what's going to happen is either they're going to say, yeah, cool, sounds good, what's next? What's the next steps? And then usually when they say that, then you're like, cool, yeah, then you basically say, hey, yeah, feel good? Yeah, feel good, cool. And then you basically help them process. Next step is really, you know, we're going to make some type of arrangement for your account. You can use a debit or credit card if that's appropriate, and then your future pays, then we're directly going to line up the onboarding call, the kickoff call, so we can make some nice progress together, right?
Do you present payment plans before they ask for them?
No, never present them. That's like a mistake I've done in the past as well, but I would never do it because payment plans is another one of the powers you have to basically handle an objection where finances are an issue. And so sometimes people ask for payment plan, but it's another smoke screen, and they just either write it down because they might just want to then afterwards hop off the call, or they just want to ask it because of asking it. But it's like, you could say when they say, hey, do we have any payments plans for this? Then it's just, sure, we can talk about that. Is there any specific reason why you asked though? Right? And then sometimes people say, yeah, I was just curious. Actually, I don't need it, but I was just curious. Right? And then of course you can then, once they say that, sometimes you don't even have to explain any payment plans. Then you can literally say, hey, a lot of our clients, they pay a lot of it or all of it up front. But for some people, of course, we split it out if it makes sense for them, right? That being said, then what I would do is I would reconfirm on the process. I would say, that being said, if we were able to do a payment plan for you, would that be something you want to go ahead with? Are you bought in on the process? Are you aligned with this? And if they then say, yeah, sure, 100% I want to do it, I would do double tie down and say, okay, so just to make sure, payment plan aside, this is exactly what you're looking for, and now is the right time. It's just about finding the right payment plans for you. You know, and that way you make sure that it's not a smoke screen, and they just want to be polite, ask something, and then like tell you, okay, I'll think about it and leave. Because again, that's what they want. They want to have all the info from you, pricings, options, payment plans, so that then they have everything they need and they can just, because then you're giving all the power away. So you want to still withhold some power, which is like, I might be able to do a payment plan for you, but tell me, is that actually what you're looking for? So that way you have some leverage for them to open up. Yeah, so first of all, you want to make sure that this stuff here is handled before. So for example, you ask, have you reached out to anyone else to get help with this in the past? And if they have calls lined up, they would tell you about this. Right? And then I would say, cool, yeah, where are you at with them in the decision-making process? I mean, have you signed anything already with them? No, just have some calls lined up. Got it. Then if they had calls already, I would be skeptical, very important, say, why haven't you gone with them yet? Why are we still on the call? Kind of like this, like, you know, like, I'm not going to trash talk them, but why have you not gone with them already? And then you can maybe get some information out of them, what they are looking for instead. Okay, and that would be powerful because then you can position yourself in the presentation different to what they've heard already. And this might be what they're looking for. That's what I would do with the other ones. And then you said the other one was the... Yeah, usually you would sidestep it first, meaning basically, yeah, no problem. Talking to your CEO aside, how do you feel about the process right now? So basically, if you say, what do you want to talk about with the CEO? You're directly creating like sales resistance, right? But if you just say, yeah, no problem. You know, talking to that aside, how do you feel about the process? Because at the end of the day, you want to avoid the situation at the transition stage here. Because here it's usually when you are doing this, that's why I love to have 2 calls in B2B. Because here you're withholding the power. They want to know what the price is. They want to know the plan. Ideally, just send me an email. But you're going to say, no, I'm not going to do this. We do everything custom. We do this on a call. Cool. So they want to know what to see if you can help. Then they need to be on a call. Great. And they want to know how much it costs. Now, you're going to stay strong here and say, hey, we present all of this on the call. Makes much more sense than throwing random numbers out here, all of that. And part of this transition script is that you will, first of all, qualify how soon are you wanting to make a decision on this. Is it something you rather want to do sooner or later? So we know when it makes sense to set up that second call. Makes sense, right? If they feel like, oh, it's nice to have in a few months, okay, then we can set up a call in a few months. But at that stage, they're curious. They shared all this info with you. They want to know now, how can you help, you know? And so that's why they're like, most of the time, will say, yeah, if it's a good fit, we can start earlier. Exactly. But did you, in the transition, ask about, so usually, so first thing I'll tell you, if you're not talking to the founder or CEO, I would be extra careful, and I would rather double check. So are you 100% sure here we can do the decision without the CEO? Yeah, we do. Okay, so you're going to double tell me now, you will not tell me at the end of the other call, I need to talk to the CEO. Are you 100% sure on this? And if you say it that directly, you can hold them accountable to that. You know what I mean? Because especially in these situations, it's going to be an exit thing most of the time. And then if they can't tell you this, I would rather say, hey, if in doubt, let's rather have the CEO on the call. It's an important decision for your business, so we can make the right decision. But you want to frame this almost that it's going to be normal to then rather make a decision together on the call, because everybody's on there, you can talk through stuff and answer any questions and so on. But the thing is, you don't do the pressure here because you first of all say this on the call, before you do the call. And so this is usually, they will make the commitment because they want to know stuff. Once at the end, once you delivered everything and told them everything, and they still have this escape mechanism, then you can't do anything anymore. But once you set this before the call, you can then say, hey, you told me 3 times you can make this decision. So come on, can you be honest with me for a second? What's really going on here? And then, you give them permission to say like, they're not so certain if it's the right thing, if they're certain if it will work for them, and then you might be able to handle that. Because the problem is when you don't have this decision maker on the call, what you need to create is a 2 versus 1. You need to make sure that the person, the CMO and maybe the junior person, are totally convinced, and you craft a game plan to now convince the CEO together. That's a bit difficult, because you might need to get them on the call, handle objections, all of that. But if they are not convinced, you have no chance. Okay, so that's the first thing. I would then start with them and then create the plan. We have in the new script some scripting for this. We can also see, if you want, how we adapt this to German and all of this. I think the biggest thing that made an impact was literally have a proper script that I followed. And not try to be like cool and freestyle everything. That doesn't work. Like, use proven scripts and deliver them naturally. So not like, okay, but actually like understand the script, have practiced it, and then deliver it like in a natural way. And that is just a lot of practice. I also probably screwed up a lot of calls like this. It's just at the end of the day, it's then a practice game. And the thing is, you need to really understand the script and know what parts should you stress and where, with what tonality, to get certain emotions evoked and get certain commitments made. And then it was like just a refinement process over time. But when you don't have enough reps, guys, and you need, first thing is always in business, know what's your biggest bottleneck. If you know it's sales, and you're not as good on the calls, practice it. Like, literally link up with someone from the program here and do role plays. Because one thing is reading it to yourself, and the other thing is actually saying it loud, how it comes across your lips when you say it. That's key. So link up and practice scripts with each other. Yeah. Yeah, time saved can be one, but usually it is only as powerful as also in the B2B context how much the awareness is, how much other money they could be making in that time. So like if it's a super painful problem, you might not need this, but the question is, why does the founder hate it so much? Maybe he just doesn't enjoy the task, but very often it prevents them from working on bigger tasks in the business. So, and then you want to get clear on the cost of that, and then you could then position it, so we're going to free up this to this, so you can ultimately scale to this with the free up time. Something like that might work, but the more you can directly correlate money made with your offer, the easier it is to sell it. Yeah, because you get it. Because I would say hey, 40 to 100K costs me 15K. Makes sense. Yeah, visibility is also weak. What do you care about visibility? What do you want from this? More money? More fame? What is more fame? You know what I mean? You have to quantify that. Because if it sounds like a nice to have, they will see your solution as an expense. It's like we pay it from spare cash we have. And once we don't have it, other stuff is important. right? Because they have to think about, anytime someone works with you, they're putting part of their focus of their business on this. They could be fixing other things in their business right now, put money and their time into it, but they're spending it with you. And so that means you need to position this as a logical next step that's going to grow the business and it's important for them. Right? So not just, that's the problem also most of the time why sales are not good, is like literally the offer is too weak, what the promised outcome is, or you're not communicating it properly. That's why when you do social media, creative stuff, always attach minimum time, if not better, what can they make from it in terms of more leads and therefore more sales, revenue outcomes. I would always do that you offer, like either a longer time that you work with someone, right? So basically you say like, hey, we give you more support, we give you longer support, different type of support. Or you say like, you justify that you say, hey, when you say different offer, you have an up-leveled offer, for example, that you do more support for someone, more intensive support in the same time, right? But otherwise, it doesn't make much sense. Because at the end of the day, what I would say is you can justify increases in price over time, but it has to still be reasonable for people, right? You could actually do it because at the end of the day, what is sales? Sales is you charge a price depending on what the client is basically willing to pay to get the result from you. And if you literally say everything is customized for the client, which it is basically because you work with a specific client who has specific challenges, and you find that the challenge the client has, because of the business is bigger, is for some reason more work for you, even though it's the same offer, you could totally pull this off. You could justify that like this as well, because it's the same thing. You can charge, when a company is already huge and you do like 1% CRO improvement, it's like a huge increase in their revenue, and it's still, you could charge them more for it, and it's totally worth it still for them. So at the end of the day, you could say like, yes, no, we have fixed prices for everyone, but you could also say, no, at the end of the day, is it a good deal for the person I'm talking to? You could view it like this for sure, right? I would try to find a balanced middle ground, to be honest, not like make crazy huge differences. That's a bit weird at some point, but usually make like, hey, it's fair, but you still made it custom to what the client needs in that moment. Keep pushing the limit. Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, it's great. It also makes you more confident that you charge more and more prices, step by step, and yeah, great. Values your work more, right, that you charge more. Yeah, it's difficult to answer one size fits all because it depends on two things. First of all, how much do you want and need the client at that stage because of you need testimonials and all of these things? And how confident are you then you can get them the result? Okay. That's what it depends on, because sometimes the revenue share is a less attractive one at the end of the day, when you do revenue share, you have more risk because you need to, first of all, make sure you're confident about it, and when you can achieve the result, you make more of that, right? But then at the end of the day, it's going to be long-term more costly for the client as well than if they charge a retainer. So it's like a little bit a risk gamble for them. This is a super long discussion because it really depends on the clients, how comfortable are you with the results and all of that. So you have to really decide it on a case by case. Long term, it's best to do some form of revenue share so you can really grow with the client, and it's best for you long term actually, because you benefit much more than just a retainer. Where's the client at right now in revenue? Where does the client want to go? Yeah. How much time do I know needs to take place on average to get there, or to get there 80-90% of the way? And then I pitch it like 40K to 100K, let's say 6 months. And then I charge a sum for that transformation. And then I would do it, it automatically continues with a retainer afterwards, if they're happy with the process and they don't want to cancel. That's it. And then on top of that, you can do, oh, but what if it doesn't work, blah, blah, blah. You might be able to say, hey, if it doesn't work in the first 6 months, we give you an additional this, or we work with you for free, or all of that until we achieve that milestone. How does that sound? Yeah, you're not upselling anything because you're saying, hey, if you are happy after the 6 months with the results achieved, then it would make sense to continue, right? And if you don't, you can just cancel. Yeah. And that's it. And then afterwards it costs. You can simply do, if you don't know how much to charge, you just have in the contract the monthly cost divided by the sum. So like, you know what I mean? Let's say it's charged 24K, 6 months, 4K per month. Afterwards it continues for 4K per month. And that's it. And you don't have any discussions around that. You put that in the contract. And if they're not happy, you cancel. No problem at all. Yeah. But we want to make it easy for you, because if you love it, we'll just automatically continue. So like position the transformation a bit more, and then you don't have this retainer discussions at all.
If you like this video, then definitely subscribe for more videos like that. And if you want to learn more how we can help, or just get any of the resources that we shared in this video, then definitely check the link in the description, or just make a comment under the video and we'll make sure to hook you up or send you all the info that you need. Looking forward and seeing you in the next video.